Hello everyone, this is Hojoon. Today I'd like to talk about overwriting LTE signal in the physical layer, which is called a physical signal overshadowing attack on LTE. This is a joint work with Sang-uk, Min-chul, Hong-il, Professor Sung-min, and my advisor Yong-dae, all from KAIST. As all we know, LTE is everywhere. It is so widespread that sometimes I feel like it is impossible to live without that. In addition to basic services such as voice or data, LTE also supports some special services such as emergency SMS. Before getting into the details of my problem, let me explain the LTE architecture first, which consists of access network, the wireless link between the UE and base station, and the core network, the wired network supporting mobility, authentication, and data service. Among these, we focus on access network. The access network is wireless, meaning that it requires security to avoid eavesdropping or interference. Fortunately, most of the messages in LTE are integrity protected after the UE is authenticated to the network by sharing secret context. But how about the messages before the authentication? Of course, they are not secure. One of those messages is called broadcast message, which have never been integrity protected in all generations of mobile communication, so they are vulnerable. So what is broadcast message? It refers messages sent to multiple UEs within a cell at the same time. Messages such as paging or SIB are included in the broadcast message. Paging is sent by the core network to establish a connection with the UE. SIB contains various information about the cell. So the broadcast message is not integrity protected. Then how can an attacker send a malicious broadcast message to the UE? The most popular way is to use so-called fake base station, FBS in short. In cellular communication, UE prefers base station with stronger signal. So FBS transmits a stronger signal to attract the UE. Once the UE is attached to the fake base station, it can send malicious broadcast message to the UE. Fake base station needs a connection establishment to send the unprotected messages. But do you think this is the most generic way to exploit the unprotected message? Or do we really need connection establishment? In my opinion, the most generic exploit is physically overwriting the wireless signal over the air, called SigOver attack. Let me explain what the SigOver attack is. In the example here, cell tower is broadcasting unprotected messages with subframes in different time and frequency. If an attacker can precisely overwrite the second subframe so that the UE can decode red subframe instead of blue subframe, we call it SigOver attack. As you can see, this idea does not require connection establishment. While the idea looks simple, it is not trivial to design and implement SigOver attack for LTE. The challenges and questions include, first, which part of the signal is overshadowed? Second, how to synchronize time and frequency? Third, how much accuracy is required for a malicious message to be decoded properly? First question is granularity of overshadowing. But let's look at the LTE frame structure first. A LTE frame consists of multiple subframes, and a subframe has multiple symbols. And a message is included in a subframe, meaning that there are various options to be overshadowed. Symbol-level overshadowing requires precise synchronization, so success rate is hard to guarantee. On the other hand, frame-level overshadowing requires to rewrite multiple subframes or multiple messages. So it is quite natural to overshadow in the subframe level. Now let me explain how I crafted a malicious subframe that can be successfully decoded at the victim UE. Attacker puts her own pilot symbols in the subframe to help the victim decode the message properly. This addition of pilot symbols increases attack robustness against phase and amplitude error. Encrypted malicious messages can now be encoded in various channels such as PCF-ICH, PDCCH, and PDSCH. A real malicious subframe example is here. The red one is signal of legitimate base station, and the blue one is the attackers. As you can see, tight time and frequency synchronization is required. Let's see time synchronization first. Attacker subframe and legitimate subframe must arrive at the UE simultaneously in order to override a particular subframe accurately. For simplicity, let's assume that there is no propagation delay for now. The attacker utilized synchronization signal called PSS-SSS to get accurate time synchronization because they are sent periodically from the legitimate cell tower. More concretely, first, the attacker listens to PSS-SSS to get frame timing of legitimate cell, meaning that the attacker can identify the frame timing T0, T1, and T2. Second, once the attacker learns the timing, she can predict the timing of the target subframe because each subframe has fixed size, which is 1 millisecond. For example, if the attacker overshadows second subframe of frame 566, then she can transmit the malicious subframe at the T2 plus 1 millisecond. Now, the attacker signals arrives at the UE simultaneously since we assume there is no propagation delay. But in real life, however, there is propagation delay depending on their location, meaning that T0 will be delayed due to the propagation delay of PSS-SSS. Also, if the attacker is located far from the UE, more delay would be added. The delay could be compensated if the attacker precisely locates the UE and cell tower, but it is not realistic in the wild. The delay is up to some maximum value because they are located within the cell radius. So yes, in practice, there is a delay that cannot be compensated. So subframes cannot be aligned exactly. So then what? We can count on the LTE UE. LTE is designed to be reliable, especially in outdoor environment. So we expected that the UE would compensate such small errors if the subframe is somewhat synchronized, but not exactly. So the question is, how much can the UE tolerate this delay error? Since it is chipset dependent, we measure the max delay tolerance of two COT smartphones, and result is around 12 and 11 microseconds each. And both results exceed max delay of urban cell, which is around 8 microseconds. So this means that the attack can succeed regardless of the location of the base station and the victim UEs. In summary, the attacker can be anywhere within the cell to succeed the attack. The last one to solve is frequency synchronization. 3GPP specifies the minimum frequency accuracy that LTE base station must have as 50 ppb. So for precise synchronization, the attacker needs to use a sufficiently accurate frequency. After that, residual frequency error can be compensated by CFO correction algorithm. Since the SigOver was run on a typical SDR, software-defined radio, we keep doing an inaccurate oscillator. We adopt GPS-DO to improve its frequency accuracy. GPS-DO guarantees 25 ppb frequency accuracy without GPS antenna, and 1 ppb with GPS antenna. Lastly, we can compensate residual frequency error by PSS, SSS based CFO correction. Check our paper for more details. Here's a summary of main question and answers. We overshadow subframe units using PSS, SSS for time synchronization, and GPS-DO and CFO correction for frequency synchronization. Finally, CUTUI is generous enough to cover the entire urban cell. In short, an attacker located on a cell can overshadow broadcast messages to any victim within the cell. Here's our test environment. We implement the SigOver by using open source LTE stack, which is SRS-LTE. We use USRP series for radio transmission. We also verify the attack against various smartphones such as iPhone XS or Galaxy S9. In the remainder of this talk, I will talk about performance of SigOver and attacks that can be launched using SigOver, all of which were tested with these devices. Okay, so far I've shown that SigOver can be used in practice, but both fake base station and SigOver can inject malicious broadcast messages to the UE. Then what is the advantage of SigOver? The basic advantage of SigOver compared with fake base station comes from the fact that the SigOver does not need connection establishment to inject the message. This has multiple implications. First, power efficiency. SigOver does not require strong power because the attack signal only needs to be higher enough to cover the original signal, called capture effect. It shows 98% success rate on 3 dB higher power. However, the fake base station requires much stronger power than the SigOver. This is because the fake base station needs to break the current connection between the victim UE and legitimate base station. Another advantage is that the UE keeps communicating with the legitimate base station or network during the attack. For example, the SigOver can inject a malicious message while the victim UE is on the phone. However, the UE cannot communicate with the network after attaching to the fake base station. So the UE might fall in the denial of services. Let me show you one possible attack using SigOver, but not feasible using fake base station. In general, signaling storm occurs through a botnet, but the SigOver can launch the attack without using the botnet. The SigOver exploits a broadcast message called SIB1, especially the tracking area code. By changing the tracking area code to new one, the attacker can trigger tracking area update procedure of the victim UE, which is sent to the core network. All UEs in a cell may continuously receive a fake SIB1, which causes tracking area update storm to the core network. Fake base station can do the same, but as you expected, the legitimate network would be safe from the attack because the fake base station is not connected to the legitimate core network. We evaluate amplification factor of signaling storm attack. In normal situation, a UE sends about 45 service request messages corresponding to over 600 signaling messages per hour. Signaling storm using SigOver can generate around 21K tracking area update requests corresponding to around 400K signaling messages per hour. In summary, signaling storm can generate 640 times more signaling messages per UE. I want to show you a demo video. The program in this screen shows signaling messages of the UE. First, the attacker injects a malicious paging message. This one is the malicious paging message. It is required for the UE to receive a new SIB1, which is fake. Then, the attacker overshadows a malicious SIB1 message whose tracking area code is changed. Then the UE generates signaling to the network, like this. It will keep going, so I skip this demo. Another demo video about fake emergency alert message. There are two victims, victim UEs, and we run the SigOver attack to send the fake emergency alert message to the UEs. Then they receive the fake alert message, which is test message. If you are interested, please check our YouTube channel for more videos. How about the defense? As SigOver lies on a physical layer, one can consider physical layer defense as shown here. Here, we computed correlation of channel magnitude between consecutive subframes. But as shown in the example of non-line of sight environment, which is the blue line at the bottom figure, it will be quite difficult to detect the SigOver in the physical layer when the attacker is carefully adjust the power. The most secure solution against SigOver attack on broadcast message is to use digital signature. This is possible because from 5G, operators' public key will be stored in the USIM. In fact, the digital signature on broadcast message was previously discussed in 3GPP. But unfortunately, because of the various reasons, this direction is not standardized yet. In summary, I present the SigOver attack physically overwriting specific subframes. SigOver is a new exploit on unpatched and insecure broadcast channel on LTE. Compared to the attacks using fake base station, SigOver is cheaper and stealthier. Also, we found new attacks on broadcast channel. Finally, I expect SigOver attack could be used in the wild. Therefore, I strongly suggest 3GPP to use digital signature for broadcast channel despite its difficulty. We have responsibly disclosed these attacks. GSMA, an organization for cellular carriers, said this has no practical implication as expected. On the other hand, Qualcomm has acknowledged the vulnerability we found. We are currently thinking about making the SigOver attack open source to push 3GPP. Thank you very much.
Questions for our speaker?
Hey, Aaron Schulman, UC San Diego. So I love this attack. I think this is a better way of doing the cell broadcast attack like we saw at Mobisys this year. My question is, you know, we opened up these new set of attacks, like attacking the downlink scheduler, so you can say that a different schedule is coming to your client than is actually legitimate. But I kind of agree with the 3GPP that it's not obvious how that can cause anything more than a denial of service. Like, do you see any potential firmware vulnerabilities there? Like, what is the potential avenue of attack that you can open beyond just denying service with this?
Actually,
you can show the other. I'll just jump in to help him to answer.
there are more attacks on the paper, but not described.
So other than the denial of service attack, I'm sorry, the advisor has to jump in sometimes. So one of the ways, so we talked about fake base station attack, right? And also you can do, people are thinking about the MITM attack as well. And one of the things you can do is using SigOver, actually you can forcefully attach a victim phone to the fake base station. And you can make it really, really stealthy. Then it will be actually very difficult to detect the attack. So, I mean, so
No,
yes.
that makes sense. That's a cool attack. I like it.
Okay, so, but we have not implemented it. I think there could be some technical challenges, but I think, yeah, I mean, in many countries, actually, like LTE rail, or there are people considering using LTE for critical applications. And if the cell is down, I think it may cause other problems in IoT and other applications. So I even think the denial of service attack is still a problem.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Time for one more question while the next speaker sits up. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to ask one question. In a conflict outdoor environment, there are many high buildings and many objects. So there exists much signal reflection and signal diffraction. So it might, I guess, it might may affect the combination of your attacker signal and the signal of the base station. So in such case, how is the success ratio of your attack? Do your experiments consider this signal reflection and signal diffraction?
Signal reflection? Can you explain again, please?
Signal reflection and
Signal reflection.
diffraction.
So how I handle the signal reflection? The question is correct?
Yeah.
He may be asking about things like multipath fading.
Multipath fading. We put pilot symbols to combat to multipath fading to make the attacker signal to be decoded at the victim properly. We put pilot symbols in the subframe. We put pilot symbols.
So reflection does not matter. So fading and
Yeah.
fading effect does.
Yeah. Non-line of sight, line of sight doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's thank our speaker.